Let me take my shirt off, because I'm going to do nothing. F this, I'm going to do a lot of nothing. Exclusive footage of nothing. Y'all niggas want smoke? New exclusive footage of nothing. Niggas doing nothing. Pump faking like they get ready to do something. Oh, hold my shirt.
How you the bully and the victim at the same time?
But do you ever see you and Ja like pictures together? Will we see an Instavid or?
Nah, that won't happen.
Wow.
Come on, babe. Like, some things don't just go away. Like, it just won't go away. Like,
we're sworn enemies forever.
50 Cent once famously said, "I have less compassion than the average human." And if you know anything about his history, you know he's not lying. If you somehow end up on his bad side, you better brace yourself because 50 will go out of his way to embarrass you, troll you, and make your life a whole lot more difficult.
Chant back, so that's why, you know, when you say the name, I say who?
that nigga sweetheart for real.
I don't know him.
He's a fruit pop for real.
And there's something going on between you and Ja Rule. But he's a talented man as well. He seems to be doing very well for himself.
Not anymore.
Okay.
And if there's one person who knows this all too well, it's Ja Rule. For over 2 decades, Ja Rule has been 50 Cent's #1 enemy, catching flack from him at every turn. The beef between these two rap titans goes all the way back to 1999. Ja Rule, also hailing from Queens, New York, was on the set of a music video when one of 50 Cent's friends ran up on him and snatched his chain. Now, this incident had nothing to do with 50 Cent directly, but the story goes that not long after, Ja Rule spotted 50 hanging out with the guy who had robbed him. If you ask 50, this is where Ja Rule started having a problem with him.
When I see the nigga, I'm like, hey, what's up? You know, I'm chilling. He see me kicking it with the nigga that robbed him, and he feel like, oh, I shouldn't speak to this dude because I know the kid robbed him.
But if you ask Ja Rule, this was when 50 Cent decided to use this incident to ignite a beef, hoping it would give his then budding rap career a serious boost.
50 used that as his end to have something to say about me. You feel what I'm saying? But it had nothing to do with him.
What followed was years and years of back and forth jabs, diss tracks, and outright hostility. Even when Ja Rule eventually admitted he lost the battle, 50 Cent refused to ease up, continuing to take every opportunity to clown Ja Rule.
The thing, because you say now, you could say, in hindsight, you could say, yes, we took an L there.
Yeah, we took an L, but listen,
Right.
yeah, we took the L.
Take, for instance, the time 50 Cent roasted Ja Rule over a theatrical performance where Ja Rule had the audacity to compare himself to Jesus Christ. It happened last year on September 7th when 50 posted a video on Instagram of Ja Rule tied to a wooden column, resembling the crucifixion of Jesus, while performing his 2000 hit One of Us. The video was taken at the 2023 BMI R&B Hip Hop Awards in Miami, where Ja Rule was surrounded by singers in white church robes, with a sunset projected on the screens behind him. In typical 50 Cent fashion, he couldn't resist taking a jab. He captioned the video, "Look at this ish head. Is he supposed to be Jesus? WTF, you can't make this shit up. LOL, so stupid."
Look at this head. Is he supposed to be Jesus? WTF, you can't make this up. LOL, so stupid.
And it wasn't just 50 who found it hilarious. His loyal comrades, Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda, piled on, filling the comment section with laughing emojis.
50 wasn't the only one who found the footage amusing. His loyal comrades, Tony Yayo and Uncle Murda, shared their emoji-filled laughter in the comment section.
But it wasn't just online trolling. A decade into their beef, something unexpected happened. 50 Cent and Ja Rule ended up on the same flight, and surprisingly, they managed to get through it without the plane turning into a battleground. Ja Rule even tweeted about the encounter in a lighthearted way, suggesting they had both moved on. However, leave it to 50 Cent to put his own spin on the story. During an interview, 50 suggested that Ja Rule was nervous the entire flight, claiming he was walking around the plane, making Ja Rule uncomfortable.
He sat on the other side, like by the window. So somebody sitting at the actual edge of it. See, and then I sat down and I kept getting up.
Seeing if anything would happen.
Just making him uncomfortable because I knew that he was by himself. It was like him and another guy.
You're horrible.
He's a piece of stool.
You're a bully.
But Ja Rule wasn't having it. He appeared on Vlad TV, dismissing 50's version of events, saying he was actually asleep during the flight and wasn't even aware of whatever 50 was talking about.
Walking around and make him nervous and all this crazy shit. I'm laughing. I'm like, you know what? It may be true. I don't know. I was asleep. Like, he may have been getting up walking. I don't know. I was catching some Z's at the moment.
In 2018, Ja Rule found himself at the receiving end of one of the most savage, brutal, and downright hilarious trolls 50 Cent has ever pulled off. It all started when 50 posted a screenshot on Instagram showing that Ja Rule's concert tickets were being sold on Groupon. Now, if you're not familiar with Groupon, it's a coupon and discount app that new businesses often use to attract customers, or that struggling businesses turn to in a desperate bid to stay afloat. So seeing concert tickets on Groupon is like a neon sign flashing "Nobody wants to go." 50 Cent, being the master troll he is, noticed that Ja's tickets were only $15 each. So what did he do? He claimed he bought 200 seats in the front row just so they could be empty.
I understand in October you did something to get back at Ja Rule.
Yeah.
And please tell the people what you did, because this is quite
I bought like the first 4 rows in his concert. How much are the tickets? $15. I said, okay, give me the first 4 rows.
How many seats is that? It's got to be like 200 seats.
Picture this. Ja Rule walks on stage ready to perform, only to see the first 200 seats completely vacant, except for one person up front, munching on popcorn. And of course, it's 50 Cent. The internet lost its mind, exploding with laughter and memes, absolutely roasting Ja Rule. This has to be one of the pettiest, most elaborate stunts anyone has ever pulled on an enemy. 50 didn't stop there. He followed up with another post, sarcastically raving about the show and saying, "What a show. I mean, just effing great. Do it again, my kid went to the restroom." Of course, Ja Rule would come out and say 50 was lying. But by then, the damage was done. The internet had already crowned 50 as the undisputed king of pettiness.
I got a stack. I got 10 stacks right now. For anybody that can find footage of this foolery that this nigga's talking about.
But 50's trolling wasn't confined to just online antics. In one interview, he mocked Ja Rule so hard that it's hard to believe they were once just 2 rappers from Queens. First, 50 teased the poor interviewer, asking if he was a fan of Ja Rule and if he danced to Ja's music. When the interviewer awkwardly said no, 50 went in for the kill, bluntly calling Ja Rule finished.
But Ja Rule was not phoning you.
Who?
Yeah, Ja Rule.
Ja was a sweetheart.
Okay.
You like Ja Rule too, right?
No.
Yeah, you do.
No.
You be dancing to that.
I'm not dancing to that.
You be liking that. I'm sure you ain't dancing to nobody likes Ja Rule in the States now. Can't make it a show. It's finished.
It was like he was driving the point home that Ja Rule's career was done, and there was no coming back from it. And then there's the moment when 50 pinpointed the exact time Ja Rule's career started to unravel. While 50 and Ja Rule were locked in their beef, Eminem, who was tight with 50, started throwing in some shots of his own. But Ja Rule, thinking he could take on M, made the colossal mistake of dissing Eminem's daughter, Haley. That was like the final nail in the coffin for Ja Rule's career. Things went from bad to worse for him, and before long, Ja Rule was a shadow of his former self. 50 Cent later said he was thrilled Ja Rule made that move because he knew it would be the end of him.
I said something about him, and he mentioned Haley.
You claim your mother's a crackhead and Kim is a known slut, so what's Haley gonna be when she grows up?
He didn't understand the severity of what was going on, like in the neighborhood versus I wasn't going to invite that energy until he said that, and I was so happy.
But seriously, what's really going on between these two? With Ja Rule, 50 Cent has held on to a grudge so deep that even after more than 20 years, he can't resist any opportunity to publicly drag him. And even though this beef has been absolutely brutal for Ja Rule's career somehow, no matter how much time has passed or how much the feud has cooled off, 50 and Ja just can't help but go at each other's throats. This beef runs so deep that both 50 and Ja have said it'll be burning until the day they die.
But do you ever see you and Ja like pictures together? Will we say Instavid or?
Nah, that won't happen.
Wow.
Come on, babe. Like, some things don't just go away. Like, it just won't go away. Like,
we're sworn enemies forever.
But it leaves us with some big questions. Was what happened to Ja Rule's career really fair? Who's really to blame for his downfall? And why? After all this time, can't 50 Cent and Ja Rule just let this beef go? Let's dive in deeper. So, like we mentioned earlier, this whole saga kicked off when one of 50 Cent's friends stole something from Ja Rule, which Ja misinterpreted as 50 trying to get some clout for his upcoming career. To set the scene, this is 1999, and at this point, Ja Rule was already a big name in the rap game. while 50 Cent was just trying to make a name for himself. In the 90s, Ja Rule had linked up with Irv Gotti, a DJ turned record exec who was tight with New York street legend Kenneth Supreme McGriff. Irv had been given the Murder Inc. record label as an imprint under Def Jam Records, and he decided to make Ja Rule the label's flagship artist. Ja Rule's career really started to take off when he wrote and featured on Jay-Z's 1998 single Can I Get Her, rapping under the name Ja. That track blew up, hitting number 19 on the Billboard charts and becoming Jay-Z's biggest song at the time. Jay followed up with his own hit, Holla Holla, which reached number 35 on Billboard and was featured on his debut studio album, Veni Vete Vici. The album itself was a success, hitting number 3 on the Billboard charts and selling 184,000 copies in its first week. Another notable track on the album was the street anthem Murder for Life, featuring Memphis Bleak, where Ja famously declared on the hook, "It's murder for life." In response to this, and in an effort to gain some attention by beefing with Ja Rule, 50 Cent recorded a diss track called Life's on the Line, which was intended to be on his debut album Power of the Dollar. On this track, 50 Cent flipped the lyrics from Ja Rule's Murder for Life, saying, "Murder, I don't believe you," essentially calling out Ja Rule and his crew, Murder Inc., as a bunch of phonies. From this point on, 50 Cent started making small-time media appearances, letting everyone know he was coming for Ja Rule. Around this time, Ja began to acknowledge 50 Cent publicly, but only to dismiss him as someone who was just trying to get attention. But 50 wasn't backing down. He doubled down on the disrespect, clapping back in interviews and reiterating that Ja Rule was a fraud who couldn't touch his street credentials. As the talking in the streets continued, tensions between the two eventually boiled over. Both rappers were booked to play the same venue in Atlanta, and they ended up running into each other at a hotel. What followed was a tense verbal confrontation, with Ja Rule expressing how pissed he was about 50's diss track. But here's where things got wild. Ja Rule was holding a baseball bat during this confrontation, which he had apparently brought out on stage earlier. As the situation escalated, 50 Cent decided he wasn't about to let Ja swing that bat. Before Ja could make a move, 50 sucker punched him right in the face, and a scuffle broke out between their crews, causing everyone to scatter.
I see him in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? It's, around my neck or whatever. I'm holding the bat. Got mad and I started screaming at him and telling him that, he was a bitch and this, that, and the third. And so he swings at me. So now we start tussling.
Now this is where the stories start to diverge. According to Ja Rule, 50 Cent started clout chasing after the fight, telling everyone that he had snatched Ja's chain. Ja denied this, claiming that both he and 50 dropped their chains during the scuffle, with some people saying 50's crew picked up Ja's chain. But regardless of whether the chain snatching really happened, it didn't take long for these two to cross paths again. Their next major run-in came in March 2000 when Ja Rule and his Murder Inc. crew got wind that 50 Cent was recording at the Hit Factory studio in New York. Apparently, Ja and his crew rushed into 50's studio session, and things escalated quickly. During the altercation, 50 Cent was stabbed by Murder Inc. affiliate Black Child, though he later downplayed the incident.
I wasn't letting nobody get to their gun to pop me, know what I mean? So I started poking niggas, straight up and down. And that's the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help me God.
Unfortunately, some other, less gangster, more professional individuals were also in the studio working with G-Unit and ended up getting injured in the chaos. One of these non-G-Unit folks ended up filing a police report which led to Black Child being arrested for the stabbings. As a result, the NYPD issued an order of protection against anyone involved, forcing Murder Inc. to stay away from 50 Cent and his associates. This document would later become a key piece in the ongoing beef, with Ja Rule and others using it as so-called proof that 50 Cent had snitched on them. But as serious as things were getting with Ja Rule and Murder Inc., the streets were becoming even more dangerous for 50 Cent. At this point, 50 was starting to build a buzz in the hood with his music, especially after dropping the track How to Rob with the Mad Rapper in mid-1999. This tongue-in-cheek track saw 50 Cent jokingly naming big rappers in the industry, saying he was going to rob them. Naturally, dissing the entire rap game didn't sit well with everyone, but it did earn 50 some clout. Behind the scenes, though, some people in the industry were getting upset, and by the year 2000, 50 clearly had a taste for gaining clout by airing out people's dirty laundry. After How to Rob, 50 decided to take things even further by dropping another track, this time naming a bunch of gangsters he knew from the streets of New York, including Kenneth Supreme McGriff, the same guy who had helped Ja Rule get his chain back. In early 2000, 50's song Ghetto Quran started making the rounds in the streets of New York, and that's when things really began to turn against him. According to Ja Rule's autobiography Unruly, this was the moment when word spread that 50 was a snitch, and from that point on, he was in serious danger in the streets. Ja also claimed that around this time, Supreme started taking active steps to blacklist 50 Cent from the music industry. Things escalated to a whole new level when, allegedly, someone from Supreme's crew was dispatched to handle 50 Cent once and for all. On May 24, 2000, 50 Cent was famously shot 9 times outside his grandmother's house but miraculously survived. Things were looking bleak for 50 Cent after he got shot. He was seriously injured, out of commission, and completely blacklisted from the rap game. Picture this. 50 is laid up in a hospital bed, barely hanging on, stewing in rage, and getting hungrier for revenge by the day. He was stuck on the sidelines, unable to make moves, while Ja Rule, his biggest enemy, was out there living his best life. With 50 Cent out of the picture, Ja Rule was on fire, going on the chart run of a lifetime, racking up Grammy nominations, and dominating the airwaves. By the time 2002 rolled around, Ja Rule was everywhere, and 50 Cent was nowhere to be found. But what Ja Rule didn't know was that 50 was lurking in the shadows, sharpening his pen and sword, just biding his time, plotting the biggest comeback the rap game had ever seen. After getting shot and blacklisted, 50 Cent was persona non grata in the industry. Nobody wanted to touch him. In fact, the situation was so bad that he had to go all the way to Canada just to find a studio that would let him record. Up there, away from all the drama, 50 Cent started laying the groundwork for his comeback. He recorded dozens of tracks, planning every move carefully. The first song he dropped after getting shot was appropriately titled FU. It was part of his mixtape Guess Who's Back, which was a mix of old and new tracks that he distributed on his own. On that tape, 50 wasn't holding back. He directly addressed the shooting, even speculating by name who might have been behind it. And on other tracks, he took aim directly at Ja Rule and the crew that stabbed him, letting them know that he was still coming for them, and they should have made sure he was dead. Now, as far as Ja Rule and Supreme were concerned, 50 Cent was done for. They thought they'd buried him, and in their minds, he was no longer a threat. So when 50's comeback mixtape didn't make a huge splash right away, Ja Rule wasn't worried. But what Ja Rule didn't anticipate was that someone else in the industry was about to stumble across 50's tape and change everything. In 2002, 50 Cent's lawyer sent a copy of Guess Who's Back to Eminem's manager, Paul Rosenberg, and apparently when M heard it, he was blown away. Without wasting any time, Eminem flew 50 out to LA to work with him and Dr. Dre. And well, the rest is history, as they say. That trip changed everything for 50. He ended up signing a $1 million deal with Eminem and Dr. Dre, officially joining the Interscope and Shady Records family. From that point on, 50 Cent was getting heavily mentored by 2 of the biggest names in the game, and they helped him craft his debut album, a true masterpiece. But before they got too deep into the process, Eminem and Dr. Dre sat 50 down for a real talk, man to man. They told him to stay focused and avoid getting into beef with Ja Rule, a conversation that M would later reference in his song Like Toy Soldiers. But 50 being 50, he couldn't just let it slide, so he started throwing subliminal shots at Ja Rule, just little jabs here and there. And naturally, Ja Rule and Murder Inc. didn't take it lying down. They started dissing 50 right back, spreading stories about how he got stabbed at the Hit Factory and filed an order of protection afterward. They tried to spin it like 50 was a full-blown snitch, saying he specifically asked for a restraining order against Ja Rule and Irv Gotti.
It was nothing crazy. It was nothing big. It was just a little scuffle. It was nothing big.
Yes, sir.
But he felt the need, to go to the cops
and press charges
by Mr. Jackson that as a result of the above described conduct, informant suffered lacerations. Informant, y'all. Informant.
This whole coordinated smear campaign drove 50 Cent straight into battle mode, and he responded by dropping some of the hardest diss tracks aimed at Ja Rule, including Wanksta and I Smell P. At this point, Eminem and Dr. Dre were cool with it. They were on board with 50 going after Ja.
I smell is that you I smell is that you Ja? I smell is that you Blame? I smell is that you Ty? Y'all niggas is
And then, In January 2003, everything changed for Ja Rule in the worst way possible. First, 50 Cent's Inda Club dropped, and it was a monster hit, the hottest rap song to ever come out at that time. It went straight to #1 on Billboard and even grabbed 2 Grammy nominations. But that wasn't even the worst of it for Ja Rule. Around the same time, the feds raided the Murder Inc. offices, trying to link them to none other than Kenneth Supreme McGriff, who had just been arrested while on the run. The feds were trying to connect Supreme, a genuine gangster, to Murder Inc., trying to pin the label as a criminal organization. They seized all of Murder Inc.'s assets, effectively putting a chokehold on Ja Rule and Irv Gotti, who were just waiting to go to trial. With all this chaos happening around him, Ja Rule was in a bad spot. He was dealing with the feds breathing down his neck and the rise of 50 Cent, who was out here taking over the rap game and talking endless ish about Ja and Murder Inc. But instead of clapping back with music, Ja Rule decided to do a cover story with The Source in February 2003. In the interview, he dragged out the same tired arguments against 50 Cent, calling him a snitch and waving that old order of protection around like a badge of honor. But little did Ja Rule know, he was about to get completely blindsided. Just days after that interview dropped, 50 Cent released Get Rich or Die Tryin', and it became one of the biggest rap debuts in history. And to make things even worse for Ja, the album featured the devastating diss track Back Down, produced by Dr. Dre on the track. 50 ripped into Ja Rule, calling him a fake gangster, mocking him with a hilarious impression of Ja's inner monologue, and even throwing in an impersonation of Ja's stylist at the end, referencing a made-up rumor that Ja had a homo affair with his stylist, a rumor supposedly started by none other than DMX. If that wasn't bad enough, 50 also threw in 2 more of his Ja Rule diss tracks as bonus tracks on the album, Life's on the Line and You're Not Like Me. Remember, this album was the best-selling album in America for 2003, moving 6.5 million copies. That's 6.5 million people out here bumping 50 Cent's music and saying F Ja Rule. Not a good look for Ja. But maybe, just maybe, Ja Rule didn't fully grasp what was happening at the time. 50 Cent was swinging his influence in a big way, and the F Ja Rule movement was gaining serious momentum among fans. Meanwhile, Ja Rule was stuck. He couldn't directly respond to 50's jabs because of the ongoing federal investigation into Murder Inc. By this point, 50 Cent had basically become what Ja Rule was just a year before, when he was riding high on back-to-back #1s. Hell, 50 was even bigger now. Desperate to hit back at 50, Ja Rule tried everything, but nothing stuck. And then he made a critical mistake. He dragged Eminem and Dr. Dre into the beef, dissing them on his tracks, which only made things worse for him. By this point, 50 Cent and Eminem were the hottest thing in the game, and their fans all over the world were united in screaming F Ja Rule at the top of their lungs. Fast forward a bit, and 50 Cent decided to focus on his career, leaving Ja Rule in the rearview mirror. He started expanding his empire, doing business deals, and just generally leveling up. But Ja Rule couldn't let it go. He kept dissing 50, even dropping an album, Blood in My Eye, that was full of hate and diss tracks, but the album flopped hard. And this is where Ja Rule really messed up. He let his album, and ultimately his entire career, be defined by his beef with 50 Cent. His failure in this beef became tied to the complete downfall of his career from this point onward. To make matters worse, Ja Rule had abandoned the mainstream pop image that took him to the top in the first place. By dropping Blood in My Eye, he alienated the pop audience that had bought his earlier albums in droves. And by going after 50 Cent, he completely lost the support of real rap fans who were riding with 50 and G-Unit at the time. You simply couldn't be a fan of both 50 Cent and Ja Rule, and Ja Rule had himself to blame for that. So with all of that, the coffin of Ja Rule's career was firmly nailed shut.